My name's Paul Church from Clarity Craft here in the UK. Welcome to another episode of Groovi Tuesday. I can see we've got some eager beavers in over on YouTube. So good morning to Catherine, who is in Canada, and Pat Henry in Welsh Wales. Are we having a sneaky peek today? Pat, I don't know. We'll give it a while for a few people to pull up a chair. So I hope everybody's well. Should we have our usual weekly weather report? Good morning, Susan, and from a wet South End. Lovely Ken's in the room. Happy Groovi Tuesday. Sharon, here everybody comes. Lovely jubbly, he says. So I hope everybody's well. I thought it was meant to be dry today, but it's a bit sort of dishwater dull today. So good morning, Tina, Anja, Patricia, Susie. Good morning. Here we go. Everyone's coming in now. Gray here in South London. Good morning, lovely Jane. Bright and sunny. Wow, lucky Jane. Send it down, please. So, are we all ready? What are we waiting for then? What we doing today? Damp in Bexhill, sunny Cumbria. Oh, it seems to be the northern part of the country unusually has the rain, and down south is normally nice and sunny. So good morning, everybody. So we've got Carol, Mrs. P's in the room as well. So yes, amazing TV shows at the weekend. That was total crazy 2 days. I mean, poor Barb, 6 hours of TV, 4 hours on the ODS, and then 2 hours on the 3 till 5, 3 hours back to back. That was just, and the rapport between both Barb and Debbie Shaw and Martin. It was a great weekend. It really was. So thank you to everyone that tuned in and took advantage of those fantastic prices. I mean, the felt by Clarity. Wow, what can I say? Yeah. So Sheila says it's damp and dull in Peterborough. Well, I'll be heading up to Peterborough. Where we now? We're Tuesday, tomorrow evening. I'm covering the Pergamano shows for the lovely Jane. So I may do a sneaky peek today if you all behave. We'll just see how you all get on today for a sneaky peek of what's coming up on the Pergamano show. And I know Jane was really looking forward to doing those shows. So I shall do my best to stand in for her. So that should be my all clear from Sue. There we go, all goodly. Thank you, Sue. So magic chemistry, it really was. And as Barb said yesterday, it was a fantastic team, not only in front of the cameras, behind the cameras, the staff at the studio, and obviously everyone here at Clarity Towers and the amazing design team. When we were setting up the counter and the display, because it's different, because it was more about sort of the lovely soft crafting with the coasters and the tiles. You can't really sort of have your sort of displays like we do when we're doing card making. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. Really was. And Chris, one of the directors that did most of the shows, I think there was out of the 6 hours, I think there was only one that he didn't do. He just cracked me up when it was coming in really close on the overhead. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic teamwork. Definitely makes the dream work. It really did. And we're already planning for the next release as well. So watch this space. So we've got lots of lovely design team in the room. The lovely Sue, Clarity Sue, is in the room as well. So if you have any questions, just ask away and we'll see what we can do. Do we have any newbies in the room today? Or maybe just joining in first couple of times? Maybe you're fairly newish to Groovi Tuesday or the Shack. Don't forget, we have a fantastic back catalogue of tutorials on our YouTube page. So there's lots to keep you occupied. Will the new release be ready for the open days? Not sure. We're waiting for a confirmation of a date from the TV for that. Yeah, not sure yet. Can't remember. Possibly, but possibly not. I know that wasn't much help, was it? So, I mean, we plan all of our shows for the whole year, but this new concept of the Felt by Clarity, it wasn't scheduled in because we didn't know how long it was going to take. I mean, the key thing initially was to get the dyes in from abroad, and then obviously speak to, because it's a different buying department up at the TV. Because it's soft craft, you have to speak to a different buying department, and they all obviously share the airtime. So we had to find somewhere that would sort of slot in. So we're waiting to hear back on that. So last week, lovely Barb stood in for me, and Barb was looking at the shader tool and the hockey stick and the 1.5 that we've now sort of got back in stock after a long time. So Barbara will show, I mean, the shader tool is great. And for me, I mean, that would be my preference for doing white work, because I just find it easier to see where the pressure's being applied. So Olivia is on episode 58. Is that of Groovi Tuesday or of the Shack? Because you've got loads of spaces. Oh, Susie Q. Susie Q. Is that Sue from Clarity? Changed your name. So I thought what we would do, I'm going to be a bit naughty really, we'll revisit what Barb did last week, and I thought we'd then put that into practice in a little card. And then what I was thinking was next week or the week after, yes it is, that is Sue, next week or the week after, I thought that we would go to the new plate that I'm about to launch on Thursday. Okay, and when you see it, you'll understand why. Okay, so last week Barbara was sort of showing, this is sort of like a sampler plate from lovely Tina, using the layering plates and looking at the different techniques into doing with the shadow embossing, some white work and colour. So I thought what we could do is we could take this little flower design in a circle or a square, and then maybe use the shader tools, the hockey sticks, to have a look and to build our finished piece. Okay, so these were the pieces that Barb was sharing with you last week. So let's just pop this out of the way, like so. So where are we going? Let's have a look. Okay, so these were the pieces that Barb was working with last week, and remember she showed you how we could reintroduce lines to the design, and then just gradually building up the depth and the level of the whiteness. I mean, look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. And I think Barb would agree that the shader tool really helps in that respect. So I thought we could take this lovely little poppy and incorporate it into a circular frame. We could go with this one, or we could go with a different one. And then I'm sure you would have had a play by now with the tools. And And I thought we could incorporate that into a card and add a little bit of colour to it as well, if we want to. Okay, so that's where I thought we'd head today. And as I say, during the course of the hour, I will give you, well, only if you behave, I'll need to get a report from Sue to see whether you've been behaving today, to have a sneaky peek of the new plate that's on the Pokemon show on Thursday. The artwork, I mean, why am I surprised? The artwork from the design team, it always surprises me when it turns up. And the lovely Josie and Glynis has very kindly prepared a couple of demos for me to showcase the design on Thursday. So I'm on 11 and 3. So Glynis says she's not really late. She's been watching on YouTube while she finished her toast. Lovely. Oh, dearie me. Oh, maybe, just fancy a piece of toast now. Oh, thick, crusty bread, lashings of butter. Right, okay. Is anyone going to have a craft along today? Not craft along, but have a go? Or are you just going to watch and just listen to me waffle on for an hour or so? No marmalade, no, just lashings of butter on toast. Can't put anything else on it. Don't like jam or chocolate spread or peanut butter or anything like that. So, no, just thick, fresh, crusty bread that when you put the butter on, it just melts. Oh. Okay, stop. And then Barb was then showing this lovely technique to create that frill, and that was using the frilly square plate. And Barbara was showing us how we do some on the front, some on the back to get that lovely sort of frill that goes, it sort of weaves in and out, doesn't it? So, right, okay, I'm ready to go, I think. How about you? You all ready? So what we're going to need is our plate mate. And to start off with, now, if you've got the whole collection, then there are 2 square frames. Oh, come on. 2 square frames, 2 circle frames. So it's entirely up to you what you want to go for. But I like the circular design. So the one that Tina used on that sampler plate was this particular design. And I thought I would use this one. Okay. So what we're going to do to start off with is I've chosen my plate. Okay, you can go, let's say, go for the square, go for the circle. Maybe you've got another plate you just want to put the frame in. So we're going to pop that into our plate mate so we can read the word Groovi baby. We are going to take a piece of parchment. Got all the Groovi tabs. Bob left them on there for me from last week. Just take those off. Okay. All right. Never run out of Groovi tabs, do you? They always turn up somewhere. Excuse me. So, tumble dry sheet. Give it a wipe. Like so. Now, I'm not going to do any perforating. We're just going to do some tracing out and some wire work. So, plate mate is the same width as the parchment. So we're going to line that up where we want it. I mean, I could, if I didn't want to be as wasteful, I could pop that there. Let's pop it there, shall we? Yeah. Okay. So that goes on there. Groovi tabs in place. Right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit now. Do me Groovi yoga, stretch up. Okay, and zoom in. I'm glad I've still got that piece of paper. Olivia O'Connell, can you buy Groovi tabs on a roll? You can indeed. I'm sure lovely Sue will pop a link up for you. Yeah, never have too many Groovi tabs, can you? I've got my Groovi guard, and I'm going to take my Groovi #1 tool and just trace out the outer frame. Okay, so I'm going to put my glasses on. Tired eyes today. Whoops. Okay. Right, okay. So I'm going to press into the groove and do the outer ones there. You've got choices. You can do a double frame, or you can just do single line frame. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so I've done part of it. So I'm going to turn it around. Carry on with the lines. I just find it's easier just doing it in sections like this. And you'll notice that I'm turning the plate so that the work comes to me. Let's get rid of those Groovi tabs, keeps catching. And then we're just going to carry on like so. So there we go. All the way around. Right, now I've got a top tip for you. Okay. When you pop a plate into the plate mate, because these are all cut out by various different laser machines, sometimes you can get a little bit of sort of difference on the side. Not much, it's literally fractions of it. But what you'll notice is that it can just jiggle a little bit. Okay, so it's just jiggling around a little bit. So it's a very good idea to take a Groovi tab, especially if you're doing sort of like a circle, like I've just been doing. So let me bring this in just to show you what I'm on about now. If I turn it over, can you see, because as I was turning it around, the plate was moving. So I've got a little bit of, it's gone a little bit skew-if there, and it's also done it over there as well. So in order to prevent that from happening, use a Groovi tab to hold your plate nice and securely. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to pop that one over there, because all it takes is just a little bit of movement and it can throw out, I say, especially when you're looking at circles. If you're doing like, I mean, if I could have kept it all in one place and gone round, and that wouldn't have happened, but because I was turning the plate just jiggled a little bit. Okay, so it's really useful to be aware of that. So we're going to go round and round, just like so. Okay, turn my plate, being held securely now by my Groovi tab. There we go. And now we also can decide if we want to incorporate the design within that circular frame, or if we want to add something different in, or maybe we just want to leave it empty. Decisions. Now, if I turn this over now, perfect circle, not so perfect circle. Okay, but it was a good learning curve, wasn't it? Helps to put the side you wiped uppermost. It does indeed, Jill. Yeah, don't wipe the parchment and then turn it over and trace out on the other side, because you will really struggle, especially with a circle. It can really sort of drag all the way around. Okay, so we'll swap out that plate now and we'll bring in the lovely poppy. Now, we can use the poppy from here. We could also use the flower here, or we could use the poppy that's down in this corner. That would have been nice if we'd gone for a square frame. I mean, that will still sit lovely in a corner as well. Okay, but we're just going to keep it nice and simple. Use your tab again to hold it in place whilst we're working. And then we can position where we want it to be. Now, what I'm doing is, what am I doing? Do I want just a single poppy? Do I want the whole design? So I'm going to go for the whole design. Okay, so do I come up higher and lose part of the stem on this one? Or do I come down and then just introduce those straight lines? I reckon, so if I come over a little bit, so what I'm doing now, I'm looking at the square frame to position my circle like so, and it's the same size as a square. So I'm going to go for that. So if I line up these lines with these lines, these lines with these lines, then that is central in the middle. Okay. So that lies in there. And I'm also checking the edge because it's also lined up with the lines on the plate mate as well. And what I'm going to do, so that I don't get carried away, I'm going to introduce the straight line across the bottom. Okay, and I'm staying within that circular frame. All right. Now for the stems, I'm going to go with the number 1 tool. So let's do those ones first, like so. Then I reckon I'll do the base of this flower in the number 1. I'm going to do the design in the middle with the number 1 as well. Yep, I'm going to do all of this with the number 1 tool, like so. Do we want to put the dots in? Do we want to just keep it nice and simple? I think it's nice keeping it nice and simple. Jiggles, wiggles and tickles are plenty. What a kerfuffle. It's all about having fun, isn't it? Okay, so I've done that one. Now for the leaves, here we go again. Decisions. Do I go for the number 2 or do I go for the number 3? I'm going to go for the number 3, I think. So the petals we're going to do in the number 3 tool. And because it has a larger ball on the end, it doesn't push into the groove as far. So therefore, it's not stretching the fibers of the parchment. So therefore, it doesn't go such a bright white. Okay. Now you can, if you have the Pergamano tools, you could use your Pergamano tools. And I know we're expecting some stocking very shortly of the 3mm and the 4.5mm. Now for the flowers themselves, I'm going to stick with the number 3 tool. And all we're going to do is just trace the petals, just like Barb did last week. Okay, so number 3, like so. Okay. And at this point in time, it really doesn't look as if I do anything. Another favourite word that Lillian used that Ken likes is kerfuffle. I've forgotten where I've been now. Hang on. Yeah. Okay, so that one's done. Let's do this one over here. I think. What do I think? I don't know what I think at the moment. Everything's going skew with because of the kerfuffle. It's all that jiggling and jaggling and wiggling and everything else. Need a steady hand. Actually, you don't need a steady hand, do you, for Groovi, because it's the grooves that are doing all the work for us. Okay. So let's have a look at what we've done so far. So let's lift that away now. And you can see we've got a very delicate outline of those flowers. Isn't it amazing? Just who would, I suppose it makes sense really, doesn't it? The size of the ball on the end, because it doesn't go in as far, it's not stretching the parchment. So therefore it doesn't go as bright white. Now, if you're new to Groovi, then maybe you want to, excuse me, trace everything out with the number 1 tool until you sort of like build up your confidence. Okay, so this now is going to become my practice piece. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trace out just this flower in the center over here. Okay, so let's bring my plate back in, and I shall relocate my Groovi tabs. Doesn't need to be central. Say this is the practice piece. So if you ever make a mistake whilst you're working, I mean, I was fortunate that I put the parchment to one side rather than use the whole piece. So let's do the bit in the middle first. Groovi tab guard. So we're going to trace this out like so. Okay. Do the bit in the middle. So we're just repeating that larger. Now I slipped because I was going too fast. And I know this is just my practice piece, but I need to put the rest of those dots in. Otherwise it will be glaringly standing out to me. Okay. Then the number 3 to trace out the outline of those lovely petals. Okay. All right, question for you then. Hands up, who was felt by clarity at the weekend? I mean, you can stay anonymous if you wish to, you don't have to. Who purchased 1, 2, 3 of all of the kits of the Felt by Clarity? Glynis, you don't have to say you bought them all. I mean, sorry, Glynis. I know Pete's listening again. Pete's a good man. He's a very good man. Okay, so we've got our, okay, the ruler is fabulous. Yeah, real game changer, that ruler. Jean bought all 3, Karen bought all 3, Pauline bought them, Bernie bought them. Ken was extremely felt by clarity over the weekend. I'm not saying anything, Ken. I saw the orders that came in over the weekend, and I'm not saying anything at all. Lillian said she had to resist, but she did order the ruler. Yeah, and the ruler. Lorraine, go back and watch it. Actually, if you tune into the Shack on Thursday evening, Barb's going to have, she's going to do sort of like a recap of some of the tips and tricks with some of her other lovely fresh cut dies, and also with the kits themselves. So yeah, so tune in if you miss some of the TV shows. Then tune in on Thursday evening in the Shack with Barb. Sorry, Ken. No. There was nothing to see about anybody's orders. Oh, goodness me. Okay. Right. Yes. So, I mean, the ruler for me was a game changer. I mean, I enjoy knitting. I can follow a pattern. I mean, I haven't done it for a while, but I like to do stuff that's just fairly simple, like scarves. I can do babies' clothes because I couldn't do a big jumper. I think I'd get bored with it. So these little bite-sized tiles are perfect, but I wouldn't know where to begin stitching. How would I know how the spacing, stuff like that? So for me, the ruler is a real game changer. And as Debbie Shaw said, perfect corners. Crazy, really, really crazy. Okay, so Sue, a question for you. Has everybody been behaving today? Because we're sort of halfway through, and before we start doing any white work, I was just wondering if everybody has been behaving. There's a yes on the text, but I think that was from earlier. We are all wonderful. Yes, we have. Ken's been good. Oh, that's right. I'll just show Ken then. Oh dear. Right. Are you ready then? No? Okay. All right, well, let's have a look at what we're doing here then. Right, what I'm doing, no, I know I'm being terrible. I'm just putting this in so I can refocus the camera. Okay. Which way am I going? I need to go outwards. Oh no, wrong way. I even read the piece of paper. It told me which way to push the switch. Okay. Now, oh no, goodness me. I haven't brought the artwork in. Right, okay. Many of our friends at home will be familiar with the name of the lovely Jane Nesterenko. Okay, an amazing woman, sadly no longer with us. She was a very dear friend of ours. I went to a couple of Barbra Streisand concerts with Jane. Jane absolutely loved Barbra Streisand, just like me. And you'll be familiar with her amazing artwork, her floral collection. And so we've got them. You've got start again, Paul. You've got roses, you've got dahlias, you've got agapanthus, you've got fuchsias, then you've got the holly and the ivy. You also have the poinsettia. So it's a beautiful sort of bouquet of different flowers. And many of you over the years have invested in the original plates from Jane. So a couple of, must have been about a month, 2 months ago, I think, Barb and Jazz were having a chat about upcoming shows and what could we do. And so the idea was to take Jane's artwork and do this with it. It's lovely, isn't it? It's very nice. Oh, do I need to put the overhead camera on? Okay, here we go. So we now have an A4 Jane Nesterenko floral sampler. Okay. We've got the lovely dahlias, the beautiful butterflies. Then Jazz has worked her magic on some of the fantastic borders and frames. So we've got the dahlia, we have the rose, we have the fuchsia, we have the agapanthus, we have the holly and the ivy, and finally we have the poinsettia. So it follows along the lines of when we've taken the designs from like Linda Williams, when we did the Christmas treasures, when we also, it was the Christmas treasures, and then the layering frames from Linda last year as well. And so yeah, I mean, Jazz worked her magic on this, hasn't lost any of its detail at all. If I show you the plate, if you I mean, well, you could, if you take the plate and just trace it out exactly how it comes. Look at the detail on that. Okay, so you got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 individual squares. And as we know with the Groovi system, you don't even need to put the frames around it. You can just take the elements. Okay, so now let me blow you away with some amazing artwork from the design team. Okay, I'm just going to stretch over. Oh. Right, are you ready? So the first piece is from the lovely Glynis. And Glynis has used one of Linda Williams's easy layout plates. This has been decoupaged. Look, picot cut and decoupaged. We've got the rose, we've got the agapanthus, we've got the rose element, these little swirls. Look at that lovely picot cutting frame around the outside. So we've got that one from Glynis. Then we have, look at this, from Karen Jackson. She's taken the squares and created this block panel, and then she's taken the same idea from Glynis and picot cut and layered those up. Okay. Then we have a piece from Francis, thinking outside the box again. Beautiful. And this is using the lovely trellis plate around the outside. Will they come in stamps too? All I will say, Bernie, is watch this space. Okay. So that's from Francis. I love this one. From Josie Davidson. So Josie's combined the lovely little sampler agapanthus and used a lot. I love that. And let me bring it in on here. Look. Hang on, where am I going? Look at that. Absolutely. I say I just get blown away every single time. Yeah, I'm going to come in closer now. Let me come in closer. Which way? This way. Okay, so I'm going to come in closer and then I'll just readjust the artwork. There we go. Then this one is from Glynis again. And Glynis has just used the dahlia in all its different configurations. So literally that whole, well, yeah, we've got the dahlias there. I can't see that. You've got the dahlias there. You've got the butterfly. You've got the large dahlia. And then instead of using that one, excuse me, that frame, Glynis has used a different one. Okay. Then this is beautiful as well. This is Julie Campbell. Pattern building. Love it. Absolutely love it. Then we have another piece from Francis Knott. That's very clever as well. So it's taking 1, 2, 3, 4 of the squares, putting in. This has all been picot cut. Really? That is just total madness. Okay. Then, so you can see you can make various size cards using this plate. And then finally, well, not finally, that rose. To me, when I see this rose, instantly is Jane Nesterenko. Okay, that for me, that's her identity, is that rose. A lovely English rose for a lovely lady. Now, there's one more piece of artwork I want to share with you. Share with you. Okay, let me just move this out the way. I'm going to pop that over there. Okay, and this piece of artwork has been created by Carol Baker. Okay, now Carol has created a box out of parchment. Okay, she's used Barb's Bijou floral alphabet on the front, JN for Jane Nesterenko. Okay, and it says it all, memories. Okay, and then when you open it up, happy birthday. It's a beautiful little concertina. Okay, look, it just keeps giving and giving and giving, and then we can turn it over, and then we can go that way, that way. Now we're going into Christmas. Look, absolutely the design and the lovely doodled frames around the outside. Doodle frames, watch this space. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Seeing what you can also do, that you could create a lovely star and have it displayed. Make beautiful little sort of like, I wouldn't say advent calendar, but you could just imagine that in a zigzag on a shelf, on a mantelpiece. Absolutely. Excuse me, sorry. Amazing, as always, from the design team. It just, there's no words. There really is no words. Okay, right. Let's get back to our Poppy. So I hope you like the look of that design from Jane Nesterenko, and I hope you can join me on Thursday at 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock on the Pergamano show on Create and Craft. Okay, right. I'm going to go for my pink mat. Okay, this is my best friend when it comes to white work. Okay, so we're bringing back in the work, and we're going to have a look at the shading tool. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit now. Sorry, Susan, I didn't mean to blow you away. I didn't realise my sneeze was that strong. Okay, all right, let's come in. Whoa, really close. Okay. Ooh. Slurp of coffee required. Right. So when we're doing white work and we're working in a fairly largish area, you can see, I mean, this petal is the size of my finger, my little finger, that is. I knew what you meant, Susan. I know, the artwork really does blow you away, doesn't it? So normally we would sort of be using, not normally, some people prefer the ball tools, some people prefer working, with the ball tools or the shaders. So for an area of that size, you would normally start off with the biggest ball tool in the range, which is the 6mm ball tool. Okay, and then one of the things that I learned very early on when you're doing white work, when you're using the ball tools, I always thought that the back of the ball had to be on the inside of the line. Okay, so if I put that on there, if I put it there, for example, I still can't really see. So I thought you put it on the back of the ball, up against the line, and then whether you flick out or whether you flick in is entirely up to you. Okay, now I'm going to go really heavy on this part just to show you. So I'm putting my finger on that line, and I'm bringing the ball up to my finger now every single time, okay? And I'm going to go on really, really heavy just so you can see what happens. I now have a space in between the outer line and where my white work should have started. So some people may want that effect, but ideally what you want is you want your white work to start from the line that you're working on. So say whether you're working away from you or towards you. So if I go on this one here, it's the same principle. I've got the back of the ball up against that line. You can see that probably better there. I'm going to get the same result. Okay, so what you need to do is put the middle of the ball on that line. I'm going to do it on this one because I'm going to flick away. So the middle of the ball is on the line. Okay, so now when I flick out, so you could use your finger like so you can see how far away my finger is from that line. So now, again, I'm going on really heavy with this, but my white work is starting on the line now, okay? So it's just something useful to remember. If you start to go into to doing some white work, then that's a really useful bit of information to know, okay? So I'm going to go with the shader tool. Now, you can hold it like a spoon because it has this curve, okay, and you can sort of drag towards, let's do it on this bit, and you can drag. But now I know I can take the edge of that paper clip or the shader tool onto that line and bring it in. Okay, so I can come towards me like so. Okay, there we go, just like so. And I have got a perfect positioning. I can either turn it over and do the same. So let's compare. If I come in here. Now there's a difference on the way that if I do it this way in the spoon position and I drag it towards me, I get that coverage. If I turn it over and do it in fork position and drag it towards me, I get a thinner line. Okay. So that's also something good to know as well. If you're on the back, you get a thick line, and if you go on the front, you get a thinner line as well. I've only just realised that. Every day is a school day. I just wonder, yeah. So there you go. I've learned something new today. So when we come to do our white work then on our flower, obviously if you've got it in the spoon position, you're going to get larger coverage. Okay, so let's do it here. We're going to go very lightly. And I'm just going to flick. I'm using the same technique where the line in my finger here is the line of the parchment. And as I pull towards me, I'm still lifting off. Okay, so I get that lovely sort of feathered effect. If I now do this one here. So don't forget, this is my practice piece, just so you can see. Am I working on the front or the back of my work? I'm still working on the back, Mary. Yeah, at this, would I go on the front for this bit? I don't know. I think I would probably stay on the back to this. Okay. I think it has just started raining. I can hear the pitter patter of raindrops on the roof. So now, see, for me, one of the great things about the shader tool is I've always struggled with a ball tool to do something like this, where you get that gap in between each of the sections. I've always struggled with that using a ball tool. Doesn't matter how much I try it, it never looks right. But with the shader tool, I don't know, it just, maybe because I can see through it, it helps. Because if I was trying to use that large ball tool, it sort of covers up. Do you know what I mean? So I'm so glad that we've finally got these back in stock. Okay. Right, look, if I turn it over now, you can see, I mean, I'm going on heavier than I would normally. Just so we can see at home. But I know if I try to get that effect with just white work and then a space, white work and then a space, I really do struggle using the ball tool to do that. Okay. And it's not to say that I can't go in with the ball tools afterwards, but it definitely, for me, makes a difference. And what you can also do is, I mean, I'm holding it completely, sort of, I'm holding it, how can I explain this? Let me come in here. Where do I need to put my hand? So I'm holding it on the parchment like this, so I can put my finger in, so I'm holding it upright. Okay, but if you hold it down flatter, let me show you something. So I'm holding it up and flicking towards me, like so. If I hold it down flatter, I get a different look. Okay. But what I love that I can now do this type of white work, which I've always struggled to do with a ball tool. Okay. Did Barbara say there's going to be another shader tool, different size? Yes. So basically, originally back in the day, there was 3 different sizes of shader tools. Okay. And as Barbara explained last week, a lot of them, they went, when we bought Pergamano many years ago, Pergamano had already discontinued the tiniest shader tool. So I think it was just the 1 and the 1.2. That's all that we sort of inherited stock-wise when we bought Pergamano. And they had discontinued, I think it's a 0.8 tool. And that's the one that they had discontinued. They discontinued a number of tools before we took over. And then when we was looking at having them now made in the UK, we was going through all the different parts and stuff like that. But I said, oh, I didn't know there was a 0. I'm sure it's a 0.8. I'm sure someone may correct me that has some of the original tools. Because I can't remember because it's written down. And as well, so well, let's bring it back then. We're finally restocking of the 1 and the 1.2. So let's bring back the 0.8 at the same time. So yeah, so there will be a smaller one. Yeah, so Margaret Jeffrey says she has the old shader tools and there are 3 of them. Yeah. So, okay. I need Chris, the CNC cameraman, to get in really, really close. I don't. Thank you, Ken. Barbara has better nails than I do. So yeah, so for me, having these finally back in stock is a real game changer, especially with working with flowers. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my piece that I've traced out, and I'm going to take my Groovi guard like so, and I'm going to start, and I'm just very, very lightly flicking towards me. It doesn't look, but yeah, you can just about see it, can't you? Hopefully. Okay, so all I'm going to do first is just gently start to use the shader tool to create some definition. Okay. I mean, as Bob said, we don't know what the rules are. My cuticles are definitely not up to it, Ken. I've got horrible fingers. But we have a fantastic group of friends around us. And so we gain knowledge by sharing. And that really is what Groovi Worldwide, Clarity Worldwide is all about. Sharing that knowledge. No question is ever a silly question if you don't know the answer. Okay. And if you find that maybe your shader or your ball tools are not sliding smoothly enough to your liking, then just wipe with the tumble dry sheet. Okay. But I was just, as I said, so now what I'm doing, I'm holding it at a slight angle as I go round the edge of that petal. Okay. So if I remember rightly, when I know when Linda does this with the ball tools, the gap in between is quite large, because what she's doing is she's popping a sort of like a base layer down, sort of like an undercoat first to get her eye in. Okay, so which is what I'm doing. That's what I think I'm doing. My head's telling me this is what I'm doing, to get that sort of definition. But even just this very subtle bit of white work, very faintly, can really make a difference, can't it? How do you use the hockey tool? Right, so the hockey tool can be used in several different ways. It has a, if I turn it to the side, can you see it's got like I don't know, it's sort of, we can play hockey with it, miniature hockey. So no, I'm being naughty. So it's got a large flattish area on the base, and then you've also got sort of like a ball on the end as well. Okay, so for example, if you want to do some white work in larger areas, let me just show you. So I'm going to go on really heavy on this. Okay, just like so. And turn it over. So you can see I'm definitely getting, so what it's doing, it's sort of putting like an undercoat down on there, and then you could use, see what you've got, like a fine point as well, but you can also, it has to feel sort of comfortable in your hand, but sometimes you just want to sort of like just slowly put a coverage there. And I know it really doesn't look as if it's doing anything, but it is. Now I'm going to try it on the black mat as well, because the black mat is definitely less forgiving. Okay, so it's because it's more squidgy. There we go. There's another word for you today. Squidgy. It's going white quicker than it was on the pink mat. Okay. Now I know if I go on that same look, I've gone for X. So when I was doing this, I was going quite heavy, but because it's a larger surface, then on a softer mat, I suppose because it's got a larger surface area on the hockey stick, I'm not saying you can't go through the parchment, but I mean, I'm going on really, really heavy, and it is not going through the parchment's buckled, but it's not going through. So Glyn has said that it's good for snowy peaks and shading landscapes. There we go. So yeah. So let's have a look back at this one now. So I'm on the back, let's turn it over. So we're now starting to see how we can sort of build up. Now, depending on the level of shadow embossing sort of stroke shading that you want in your design, you may think, okay, that's plenty for me. I now want to add some color to it. Okay. Josie said they're good for snowmen. Interesting. Okay. So I'm going to go back over on just one of these, just for now. I think I did this one first, didn't I? So now I'm going to go on, and what I'm doing, I'm going to narrow the space in between. See, I feel a lot more confident doing that with the shading tool. Okay. So you can see now how I'm starting to close the gap in between the areas. And in order to do that, what I'm doing, I didn't know, I'm sort of swiveling the tools. I mean, it's working for me. I don't know whether it's the right way to do it, but it's definitely giving me the result I'm looking for. But can you see the difference now between the spacing? If I go back in on, if I just keep going in, I'm going to go on heavy on this one, like so. You can definitely see the difference in the spacing, can't you? So if I go in again, completely sort of flat, so to speak, okay. But if you give it a little tilt, it's not a swivel really, is it? It's a little tilt. You can close those gaps in a lot more easily, I think personally, a lot more easily with the shader than I can with a ball tool. Not to say that I'm not going to use the ball tool. The ball tool has its purposes, but if you're looking for this type of effect, this is what works for me. Because if you go back on some of my Groovi Tuesdays where I've tried to create this effect with the ball tools, you'll see that I've got it. I've managed to get it to work, but not as easily as I have with the shading tool. Okay. Goodness me, it's at the time. That rain is absolutely torrential outside. Well, it sounds torrential. So thank you once again for joining me this week. Now, don't forget, this week, so yesterday you had the shack and it was the D for dandelion, or Donald Duck, as Barb said yesterday. Today we've done Groovi Tuesday. Thursday at 11 and 3, I'm on the Pergamano show on Create and Craft with, the lovely Jane Nesterenko floral sampler plate. And then at 7 o'clock in the evening, it's back in the shack with Barb, and she'll be sharing lots of tips and tricks with the Felt by Clarity range, not only with the dyes that come with the kit, but also some of the other dyes in our collection. And then obviously you've got the barbergrayblog.com and the Clarity Matters blog, which is a Saturday share on Saturday and a step-by-step by the fantastic design team. So thank you once again for joining me. Thank you to Sue and all the lovely design team in the room. And I'll see you again next week. Take care now. Stay inside. If it's raining, I mean, we've got the rain down here. If you're up north and you've got sunshine, go out and enjoy the sun. But if you're down south, stay in and do some crafting. Get in the groove and do some crafting. Take care now. Bye-bye.